What's up guys, J-Team Off-Road here. Today's video, we're going to talk about what's been going on with the Avalanche this year. So we're going to take this all the way back to about January. Truck has to get inspected, and it was kind of just bothering me a little bit because tires stuck out a good bit. In Pennsylvania, you have to have the tires covered when you're driving around. Otherwise, you're more than likely going to get pulled over, which has happened to me with the Jeep in the past. With the case with this, the fronts stick out maybe just a little bit, but the rears were sticking out quite a bit. So my first thought was I should probably try to get some wider fender flares. So looking around online for this generation Avalanche, there's really not a whole lot of flares out there that are very wide. They're all kind of the width that the stock flares are. So I found one that seemed like it would be okay. Just try it out. I get it, and it really doesn't seem to be much wider at all. So I'm like, whatever, we're just, you know, they're pocket flares, they look good, we'll just start, try to get it going, see what happens. So I actually tried videoing this, and after I pull the first flare off, tons of rust, just as expected. And I start lining the other one up, and I'm thinking, you know, this is not worth it. It's not really going to cover my tires much better. There's so much rust. These flares look good enough. I should just try to get my money back and not even worry about these flares. So we just skipped that idea. So at this point, I'm just like, I really need to get the tires covered so I can get this inspected. What should I do? I'm like, well, maybe I'll get some garden edging and rivet that in place on the flares or something. Just try to do something. Then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I do have pretty big spacers in the back. Let me measure to see if the front is actually matching with the back. And it isn't. The back is actually quite a bit larger than the front. So I took the spacers off. Tires are perfectly covered, no problem. Made the appointment, passed inspection just fine. I guess also to get inspected, I had some more rocker rust I had to take care of. I do have rockers that I'm planning on putting in hopefully this winter, but to get me by with the rocker rust, just putting some flashing over it, riveting it in place, it passes just fine. So this wasn't necessarily a direct Avalanche improvement, but I've had my trailer for a couple years. It's been great. I don't use it a whole lot, but I never did anything to treat the wood on the deck. One of my buddies told me that just plain used motor oil works great. So went ahead and used a roller, just went ahead and rolled it on. Turned out great, looks great. Now it's protected for a while. So a couple months go by, my passenger side front lock actuator just stops working. And I've already replaced this before. Right after I got the truck, you know, I bought it used. It stopped working, so I had to replace it. So I think I got like 3 years out of that one. So at this point, I'm kind of just a little discouraged with the truck just because it has so much rust. So I went out and started looking at other vehicles, and there's a lot of trucks out there, and they're all rusty, and everybody wants way too much for them right now. So that kind of gave me a lot of motivation to just keep running my truck. So got the lock actuator, changed out, everything's great. So the brakes were something else that needed some looking at. They'd been needing changed, and there was just some rattling and stuff that went on. The rattling was because of the e-brake in the back, some of the hardware that's in there, the bolts that hold the shoe in place. It kind of bounces around a good bit, and it just didn't work right. So went ahead and fixed that, took care of that, rattling was gone, and we decided to run some power stop brakes. I had changed some brakes on some people's cars, and they all say that they love them. So I decided to go with the power stop brakes. I went with the heavy duty ones that were for bigger tires and towing, and made such a difference. I really like them. Let me know if you guys have any power stop brakes or if you run a different kind. I like these so far. I'd be open to suggestions of things that are even better, but I think for now I'm going to keep running these power stops. Also during that time when I went to do the brakes, it was time to get a better jack. I went with one of the highest floor jacks that Harbor Freight offers just because tired of putting blocks of wood on the jack that I have. Not safe, want to be safe, went with a different jack. Since I got the brakes changed, I started going on some more trips. Really didn't drive a whole lot this year. Got the brakes changed out, actually rotated the tires that I've been needing done, and got rid of some of the extra wear that was happening to them. So drives a whole lot smoother now. Put some more miles on them, started feeling confident driving the truck again. Ended up going on a camping trip with some buddies. You saw the video of that. If you haven't, go check that out. That was a fun time. When I got back, you know, I had to clean the truck off. So I used a pressure washer, and I was up around the plastic area, which was practically white. It was just so faded. And I noticed it was getting really, really dark in certain spots. So I kept it up, did it with all the plastic, and it's darkened up a good bit. It's still not, you know, what it was from the factory, but I don't know exactly what happened, if it just washed off some of the oxidation. I don't know if that's a thing, but I did that, and it's been gray, and it's been holding up. So I've been meaning to either paint them or use some plastic restore on them, but it's gonna work for the meantime. After this, I had a buddy who needed to tow a Ford Ranger to his dad's house. So it was about a half hour trip, nothing bad. I haven't towed with the Avalanche up until this time. I've been kind of just wondering how it was going to work with the Jeep. I hadn't towed the Jeep, haven't had the time to, you know, go wheeling or anything. So I figured this was probably a good time to try it out. This would be a good trial run. It's probably going to be about the same weight. Truck did great. It really did not squat much at all. I use a weight distribution hitch and works great. The springs in the back, the rough country springs, the coils, they really didn't sag as much as I thought. So all in all, it towed great. Ended up getting a random misfire code. Gonna have to dive into that. But other than that, towed fine, and I think I'm ready to tow the Jeep again. Since then, I ended up getting a shed for the garage. I ended up getting a ton of gravel. I did it in a couple trips, but the first time I went, I got 1,500 pounds. Again, springs did not sag near as much as I thought it was. Had to get some materials for a deck, used the trailer for that. Was able to fold down the mid-gate and the Avalanche. I think we had 12-foot long decking that was going in there. With all that down, the tailgate down, you know, it hung off just a little bit. So versatility of the Avalanche is just one of my favorite things about it. After that, I had to take a couple loads of scrap to the scrap yard. Again, rough country springs did great, no problems with that. Held up just fine. And that brings us up to now. So I think over the winter, I'm gonna try to work on the rockers. I needed to get something else. I ended up getting another vehicle to drive around while I work on that, and the Jeep over the winter. So the idea I'm trying to have is I'm gonna have one vehicle laid up at a time. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be working on the Avalanche or the Jeep first, but one of those is gonna happen. We gotta get working on the Avalanche. I really wanna get those rockers taken care of and some of the other rust. Things are gonna stay around for a while. I don't feel like having another truck payment, so that's gonna be one of the top priorities. So a lot of that stuff over this year wasn't too thrilling, but I figured I'd just kind of do a wrap-up video telling you, everything that happened. So if you liked the video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I'd say that's about it for this video, guys. See you in the next one.